Elizabeth Burk is a psychologist who currently divides her time between a clinical practice in New York and a husband and home in Southwest Louisiana. She has previously published 2 chapbooks, Learning to Love Louisiana and Louisiana Purchase, both by Yellow Flag Press. Her work has appeared in forthcoming in Atlanta Review, Calyx, Rattle, the Southern Poetry Anthology, Earth's Daughters, New Madrid, Spillway, Passenger Louisiana Literature, and various other journals and anthologies. Her work has been performed at various venues in New York and Louisiana, including here. Her latest book, Duet, Poet and Photographer, is a collaboration with her photographer husband, Leo Touche. Please help me welcome Liz Burk.
Thank you all for coming. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? My photographer husband and my publicist, I must add. Although we almost forgot the photographs. I don't know if you can see them, but I will hold them up. Don't move, don't move. Okay. Okay.
You okay?
Okay. So the book, Poet and Photographer Duet, is a pairing of poems and photographs, my poems with his photographs, and it was a gradual process. He suggested, I should say, he kind of challenged me to write poems to his photographs, and so most of them are inspired by photographs, but at times I would write a poem, and then Leo would say, I have just the photograph to go with that. So it was a very interactive process. I'm going to start with a poem called The Road Widow, because it's about the beginning of our relationship and kind of explains what I, a Yankee from New York, as most of you know, what I'm doing here in Brobridge with a Cajun from Abbeville. I met him in New York. He left on many road trips, photographing, book tours, always stopping in this strange land called Louisiana. The Road Widow. When you are gone, each city you are in lights up like a neon sign, beckons like Broadway dancers and go-go girls. I see bars, strangers, ex-wives, imagined worlds where you loved others and left or were left behind. My body tilts south where you have gone. I taste cane sugar. I feel the wilting heat. I am surrounded by weepy trees, gnarled arms reaching out over sultry swamp, where the murky deep rises to meet the sky. So as you all know, all relationships have their ups and downs, and sometimes right in the beginning. Like, who is this strange Cajun coming and going, sweeping me off my feet, and then leaving, sometimes inviting me along? This poem is called Ready. Can you all see the image? Ready. I put spikes on my breasts, made from cactus, sharpened by hail. I file my tongue to a dagger. I paint my skin and dye my hair to a spicy cayenne. I race into town, swing through alleys, searching for your aching eyes, your pebbled skin, and when I find you, I put on my helmet, climb aboard, and say, let's go. Can you all see it? The next poem was inspired by the first photograph Leo ever gave me. I guess it was kind of a token of courtship. Matamoros. When I complain about aging, he shows me a photo he took years ago. Profile of an abuela, swathed in black, chin jutting forward, toothless, hollow cheeks under high chiseled cheekbones, brows like arrows, fierce as a stray wolf, prowling through town. The picture snapped just as she passes under a photo of a sultry Raquel, eyes ringed in kohl, whose taut skin and glossed lips seem to mock the crone's caved face. He hands me the framed photo, asks, "Who is more beautiful?" I thought that might be a trick question, but it was provocative. Yes, thank you. And on the subject of aging, this is a topic I find myself writing about quite a bit lately as I try to come to grips with the reality. Ghost of my future self. She's not yet the eccentric old lady she hopes to become before she dies, who doesn't care if her pants bag out like pajama bottoms or her hair's a frizzy gray cloud swarming like gnats around her wrinkled face. Like every woman, she's obsessed with hair. Dye it, go natural, tie it up, let it down, curl, straighten, bangs, highlights, lowlights, no lights. It's what we assess every morning. First thing we notice about each other. How've you been? Hey, your hair looks good. Even her patients start their sessions this way. The obsession shows up in dreams. She's sitting in the local cafe in Brobridge on Saturday morning at the Cajun Jam, waiting her turn to sing. Suddenly realizes she forgot to get her hair done. The band stops playing, waits while she runs to the hairdresser. This only happens in dreams. She bumps into Susie, an old friend, gone from brunette to golden striped chestnut, who reveals her husband has prostate cancer. But the talk quickly switches to whose hair is too blonde. Blonde says humdrum, like their mothers lying coiffed and dyed in their coffins, while Gray says, screw it, this is who I am. Is she ready for that yet? She considers the cost of a new tint. Maybe it's time to don those baggy jeans, take up the fiddle, and strum the washboard with thimbles silver as undyed hair. Okay. This is really aging. I'm not there yet, but this was a photograph that was taken in New York at Rockefeller Center. Silk paisley and pearls. A chore, this business of rising every day, completing a meticulous ritual, to wash, to groom, encase folds of flesh in girdle, garters, hose, a binding bra, a struggle for arthritic limbs, face powdered, wisps of hair powdered into place, topped by brimmed hat, held with pins, white gloves in hand, I descend into city streets towards daily chores, druggist, butcher, banker, despite losses of family in the camps, illness, rampaging age, outlasting all is a dim glory, each step a reprieve and a reproach, bringing me closer to those who left me behind. That's a sight you see very often in New York, and somehow I don't see it as much in Louisiana, and it's not because y'all don't drink as much. You just sleep it off somewhere else. This is a park bench. Intoxication. I sip from my glass, slim-stemmed oval for mellifluous white, curvaceous bowl for bodacious red, or gulp greedy from a bottle, the way a baby sucks milk from mama's sweet tit. Thirsty bubbles of amber beer, cool white fire of gin, liquid gold of a tequila shot, swallowed neat with a lick of salt. Don't ask about the reasons I drink. Could be a lover gone, could be a leaf falling from a tree. The question only is why I can't stop. The craving passed down, tainting generations. Grandma Rose, a splash of amaretto in her morning coffee, silver satin sipped throughout the day. My daddy, a fall-down drunk. At night, a beached whale outside the bar. I started at 12 in a best friend's basement. A case of Bud, Rebel Yell, Old Crow on my tongue, slow melt and burn through my veins, made me dizzy sick, but loosened the knots inside. And still, it eases my way through fights with my wife, with my nasty boss. A few drinks at night blows out circuits playing the same tune over and over. What I did, what I didn't do, what I should have done. Once that taste is on my tongue, I don't stop until the clutter collides like marbles spinning over a slippery surface, sliding off the edge of my mind so I can start fresh the next day. I get up every morning. I dress, I go to work, stay the day. I'm not some old alkie like my dad. Out of control, on the skids, spouse, kids not talking to me. It's just a habit. I can stop anytime. Thank you. This is about a New York scene, but it was inspired by a picture of a dune. And I don't know if you all can see what looks to me like a pigeon. The dune photos are very much like a Rorschach, like those famous ink blots we psychologists use to analyze y'all. And I'm putting it all out there. Pigeon. Headed downtown for a wedding reception, we see a dead pigeon on the subway platform. No blood, no visible means of death. A toddler strapped in a stroller points to the pigeon, asks Mama why it's sleeping there. Mama silently wheels the child away. Years ago, on a crowded beach, an Egyptian beach, 4 men weaved through throngs, each carrying a limb of a man face down. The families gathered continued to play cards. Picnic lunches spread across wooden tables. No one glances up or asks why or makes way. My husband, a medical doctor, offers assistance but is unable to resuscitate the dead man. We leave before police arrive. I question our native guide. Why the indifference? Inshallah, he says. That's how we think of life and death. It's God's will. What will be, will be. The wedding reception boasts buffet tables, lobster, shrimp, wine, whiskey, filet mignon. The bride wears white silk. The groom, a pigeon gray suit, white ruffled shirt. Headed back home, the uptown train is littered with wrappers, empty bottles, teens in dreads, old men slumped on benches in disheveled stupors. Another lone pigeon struts the platform, pecking at garbage. The train arrives. We push our way onto a crowded car. The pigeon hops from foot to foot like a child wanting to board. How long will it survive in this toxic corridor? Inshallah. This is a dune photo in which I saw 3 nuns. Three nuns, tilted, dizzy from a long, dry day in the desert, lie down to rest a bit before making their way home to the monastery tent. To lighten their burden, they empty their pockets. Long ago, they bleached their egos in service to suffering. They lean exhausted against one another, drained from feeding starving children, comforting the grieving, tending torn bodies. Their own parched bodies have turned to dust. Only the robes remain, habits to which they must return. Yeah. That's the cover of our book, and here, it's a dune photo. I saw something quite different. Maybe you do too. Desire. Cover my moonstone body with your obsidian grace. Bend, blend, dissolve me into the heat of desire before the wind scatters our particles, reconfigures us. Okay. How am I doing on time? Good. Okay, well then I'll read this one. This is embarrassing, but it was based on an event that actually happened. I was being extremely careless opening something, and I decided to turn it into a mythic event. And to appreciate the poem, you probably know Aphrodite is the Greek name for the goddess Venus de Milo. And she's the goddess of love, beauty, pleasure, all that good stuff. Aphrodite's headache. It started with just a finger slashed opening a jug of wine. Ares had arrived, bitter and bruised from hours on the battlefield. And after he drinks his fill, I know what he'll want, and I'll have to remove my girdle, which is getting tighter, harder to get on and off every year. Being beautiful has its drawbacks. Creatures of heaven and earth expect me to always look the part. True, I slid from a perfectly scalloped womb, all long flowing locks and dazed blue eyes. That became my trademark look, but trust me, I've had to work at it over the centuries. Foundation, powder for pocked skin, blush, mascara, weeks spent shopping for sheets to drape just right. And everyone thinking I'm just a ditz who majored in makeup at Goddess U. So when Ares arrives with furrowed brow wanting a drink, I hurry for the jug, and damn, the stopper is stuck. I can't get it open. Ares is dozing on the dais, so I grab his sword to try to pry the lid off. And suddenly, there is wine and blood spilling all over. I grab the hem of my sheet, wrap it over my bleeding finger. Ares awakens, startled, shakes his head. By Zeus, he blurts, you could have just said you had a headache, Aphri. Look what a mess you've made, and you've wasted all that wine. Just like a man. What do I have to do for sympathy here? Cut off both my arms? Yeah. The next poem was originally entitled Catalonia, 1973, and that's the northern province of Spain that is always agitating for independence. But after talking to my photographer husband, another title came to mind. I asked him what his favorite photograph was, and he said this one, this old man sitting in the corner. Well, I got real excited. I expected a story about the old man, something fabulous, interesting. I said, well, why is that your favorite photograph? He said, well, it's black, white, and every shade of gray. That's the difference between an image person and a word person. Catalonia. The old man is reading, but his shadow hand holds a gun, his cane propped against a companion chair he saves for his wife, who was killed 40 years ago in the Spanish Civil War. His long fingers obscure the title. Impossible to tell if he's holding a pamphlet of pro-Franco propaganda, illustrated erotica, or a manifesto on Catalan independence. He reminds me of my father, an armchair activist who sat nightly under a map of the Soviet Union he had taped to our cracked, peeling walls, dozing over Marxist tomes, the Daily Worker, urging workers of the world to unite, waking to extol Stalin's massacres for the sake of the cause. Always the cause. The old man, too, dozes. His dreams mingle with memories. The red dress his wife wore to rallies, their fevered talks into the night, ending in passionate embraces, the speeches, screaming crowds, the blood-stained streets, the infighting between factions on the same side, so violent that the fight for freedom against fascism collapsed under the weight of its own divided dogmas. Sometimes the old man wonders if it matters what side they were fighting for. Time is the enemy now. He still misses his wife and his son, now Franco's political prisoner, in the building where he keeps a lonely vigil. But the old man, too, is a prisoner of his own shadows, only his books, his memories, to shield him from seeing the pillars of divided light rising behind his back, one white wall, one black. While outside the picture frame, his dog lies on the gray concrete beneath them both, each waiting for the other to lead the way home. Line dance. And on a lighter note, I end with a poem called Line Dance. Yeah. And this photo caught my attention immediately because it reminded me of Louisiana. And some of us who I won't name teach line dancing here. And people of all ages go dancing morning, noon, and night, and that's one of the reasons I just love this place. Line dance. We may not be the Rockettes, but baby, we can still boogie. I remember the first time I saw those silky legs on stage swing out in straight line, just like Grandma's knickers hanging on a clothesline, swaying in a hot breeze. Mother enrolled me early in ballet school, hoping for balance and poise, although I preferred the freewheeling clatter of tap. I wanted to dance like a showgirl, all glamour and style, sassy butts bouncing back and forth, our steps in perfect unison, so our bodies looked like one big wave undulating across the stage. And backstage, I wanted red roses, roving eyes to idolize my perfect legs, lips, hips. Alas, knobby knees, weak ankles, and cheese doodle toes prevented a dance career. So my life took a different turn. My husband, a dour man, refused to dance. So when I was alone, I pirouetted on my suburban parquet floors, broom in one hand, dustpan in the other, twisted to chubby while I dried dishes, shouted out loud with Ray Charles, and when James Brown came on, Mama swung her brand new bag around the room like a lantern in the arc of a shooting star. It's my time now to dance in a line, to swing and sway in perfect time. We may not be the Rockettes, but we can still boogie to rock and roll, swamp pop, and cowgirl rhythm and blues.